Alright, in this episode we enter the Ice Plains. Only one stage to go before we completely solve the Great Circus mystery. This is actually probably my favorite level in the game, for a couple of reasons. One, the enemies are not entirely trivial. Like, you can't jump on these little ice guys. And beyond that, when you hit them with a block or a shot or whatever, they'll actually split in half into two small icicle guys, which then, if you hit them again, they'll finally die. And similar with these little pink spiky guys, you can't actually kill them. If you hit them with something, they'll just freeze in place for a moment. Another secret shop here. I buy a heart. But yeah, one of the other really nice things about this level is that, unlike basically every other level we've been to so far, this one lets its set pieces sort of remain for a while longer. Like in this section, we have the rising and falling water, which interrupts your platforming and changes how you interact with even a simple jump. This actually goes on for a fairly decent amount of time, unlike, say, in the cave level with the little waterfall section, which barely lasted 30 seconds, and that's if you decide to sit around and stay for a while. The little hole in the ceiling is where the pink guys come from. And here we have probably the deadliest mini-boss in the game. It's another weasel. He's in a spiky ice cylinder. I say he's the deadliest probably because, well, the time you have to hit him during is very short. And even then, you're still pretty vulnerable while you're doing it, while you're attacking him. Because he's moving back and forth here at a pretty good pace. And it's possible to get in 2 hits against him down here, but you have to time both of them right. You have to hit him really early and then be there right at the end. It is possible to hit him when he's stopped at the top of the water, but it requires you to be at the top of your jump arc. And again, it's pretty dangerous. You're probably going to get hit trying to do that. When the water is at its height, if you're standing on either side up here, you're probably 9 times out of 10 going to avoid his little spiky balls, unless he's right next to you, in which case there's a good chance you're going to get hit. Oh, like right here, I probably would have gotten hit by the balls, so I just went for the attack. And yeah, I mean, this is probably the closest mini-boss we've had to being actually challenging. I remember my brother and sister, like, we had a lot of trouble with this guy, even with 2 of us. Just because, well, we weren't very good at video games at the time. We were young, what do you want? Though I do remember discovering at some point that if you hooked onto the wall at the right height, he would run his head into your feet and you'd get a free hit. But it's only 1 hit, which is why I didn't bother with it in this video. It's not really worth it. But yeah, it's like this is actually a fairly challenging mini-boss fight. He goes down eventually anyway, but yeah, I lost a lot of life there. And we immediately enter another long set piece, which is kind of nice, in an underwater swimming section. One of the funniest parts of these, I think, is that Mickey always seems incredibly unhappy to be underwater unless he's standing underwater. But anytime he's swimming about, he's got this really concerned look on his face. The standing bubbles in the foreground are how you get air back. Unlike the Sonic games, this game doesn't have the courtesy of making it really obvious that the bubbles are refilling your air. They just do, and there's no animation or noise to indicate that they've done so. It's one of those really small things about game design that you don't realize is really nice until it doesn't include it. But yeah, you just saw me drown to death, because I had only had 1 hit left from the boss, and it was very slow getting to an air bubble. But yeah, this section actually goes on for a fair amount of time, which again is nice compared to the very short, different platforming sections from all the other levels. So this is a really nice change of pace in this level. Unfortunately, the worst part of the ice level is probably the most obvious part of the ice level, and that is how god-awful the music is here. It's just shrieking in your ear the entire time, and when it's not doing that, it's just kind of annoying. Switch to the sweeper here, because I'm, well, preempting the boss. which we will have to use the sweeper, but he's not here yet. Just have a nice little platforming section full of these little icicle guys. If you're good at swinging on the hooks, you probably won't have to fight any of them, and we stay primarily in the hooks up here. The little clock blocks that you've seen a couple of, demonstrated those, but they stop time for a short period. You can kill enemies during it, but they'll freeze in the middle of their death animation. And so for the icicle guys, that means you can't actually kill them. If you hit them when they're frozen, they'll just split, but freeze right before they split. And here we have the boss. And this is probably the most unique boss in the game, in that you don't kill him by jumping on his head. He's a big cloud guy. Basically, still only has 2 attacks. He shoots lightning bolts, which reflect off the ground, which is kind of a neat touch. And then can also spit snowflakes, which will freeze you, and you'll see that here shortly. But yeah, to damage him, you have to suck up portions of him with the sweeper, which spits out more energy for you. Unfortunately, the way he's programmed actually makes it very possible for this fight to go on for a really long time. If you don't suck up a section of him in a certain period of time, he will actually start to regenerate, and he'll go from red back to pink back to white, and you'll have to suck all those portions back up again. And you really don't have a lot of control over this. Sometimes he'll swoop down into sweeper range a lot, and sometimes he just won't do that, and you're going to see that with... This is the last hit. This would be the last hit, but he just kind of stays out of sweeper range long enough that he regenerates again. I remember playing this back in the day. Yeah, he just regenerated there. I remember playing this back in the day. Like, my sister and I would have terrible luck for the longest time, and he would just stay out of range and go from red all the way back to white, just without ever swooping down. Thankfully, he doesn't do that to us here, and we get to beat him in a timely manner. But yeah, the Ice Plains is really nice. It stays in platforming set pieces for longer than a few seconds, and does a lot of really cool things platforming-wise. It has a really unique boss. Unfortunately, the same can't be said for the last level, but we'll see that when we come to it. Until then...